Come on in. So, I am very happy to invite you and welcome you to this poetry celebration. I'm Molly Ovenden, and you are my lovely friends who have come to this time of peace on this Sunday, the 16th of February. So, maybe you have a cup of tea with you to celebrate. Maybe you have a cup of sparkling something to celebrate. It's all welcome. I see your tea there. Amazing. Good morning. Um, so I wanted to have you here to simply celebrate some peaceful poetry. And what does that mean? It means that I have realized over the last few years that poetry is a beautiful container that offers peace. It's a way that people can deal with things that we can't quite articulate in other ways, but with poetry, we can do that. And so I want to be someone who brings peace. I want to be someone who offers an opportunity to articulate and hold the tricky things of life in a way that is approachable. And I want to be a peaceful space holder. So I hope and pray that this space today that we share is peaceful. And so you may be able to see my accompanying friend here, my best friend, Max, my bearded furniture making Englishman hottie husband, who I talk about but don't don't often share. So he's here keeping me company as well as you guys, and we see you and we're so glad you're here. So I will be keeping an eye on the chat, but I wanted to share kind of the way that this next hour together that we'll have will go. I wanted to share a little bit of history of what this Poetry Rainbow collection is and why it is here, where it is going, how far it's come, and where I'm aiming. And then I want to give some time for questions as well. And there's probably a bit of silliness, there's probably a bit of reflection that will come, and everything that we experience together in this next bit of time, please consider it an invitation, something that you can opt into or say, not for me, not now, but I just want to invite you into it. So thank you again so much for coming. So as we start with this poetry, I want to invite us simply to breathe. So just take a moment, take a deep breath. Maybe you're feeling nervous, like I am a little bit. Maybe you're feeling peaceful already. But however you are, welcome. Take another deep breath. What is something peaceful that you've experienced today or this week? Keep it in your mind. If you want to share in the chat, you're welcome to do so. But otherwise, just think about that peaceful thing. For me, what's coming to mind is yesterday, Max and I went to Nostell Priory, which is a National Trust property, and it was very misty outside, and it was just very beautiful. And so that image of this vast property of walking paths and trees and green with mist, that feels peaceful to me today. Well, a few years ago, in 2020, as a world, we experienced something very unpeaceful, something that was really hard with the global pandemic. And aside from that, I was experiencing a lot of lack of peace because I wasn't being fully who I was made to be. And so, thinking of the times when I felt like myself, a lot of it included nature. A lot of it included drinking a cup of tea while staring out the window and noticing nature and being present and breathing and recognizing that it's good to slow down. So I'm seeing some of your peaceful moments in the chat. Snow falling, covering the pine boughs, making them look like paper doilies. Yesterday, your dad gifted you a kookaburra feather he found on the ground when he visited his dad in the nursing home. He knows kookaburras are your favorite and they make you feel safe. You both cried. It was a lovely moment together. Thank you for sharing that. It's these moments of emotion, these moments of slowing that really are poetry, that really are these peaceful times. So hold on to that peace as I bring you through this journey. So we're here for poetry, right? But for me, a significant thing happened in October 2020 when I handed in my notice to my current full-time job to be a writer and an artist. In a time when a lot of people were panicking and getting laid off and not having peace, I stepped into courage and I let go of a job, not knowing exactly what was coming up next, but that opened an opportunity. On the 1st of January 2021, I started out full-time writer artist. What does that include? Well, I continued to meet more and more writers. I continued to meet more and more poets. And I continued to have this tap on my heart of poetry and of being a writer. And December 1st, 2021, I decided the first book that was a collection of essays, I needed to get that out. And that decision was kind of a bottleneck opener for me. Then eventually, when that got published on June 30th, 2022, that made a way for more creative possibilities, more opening and awareness and availability to poetry. I kept meeting more and more poets, and this stuff from my childhood, this stuff from my teenagehood couldn't be couldn't be um couldn't be ignored anymore. It just couldn't be anything other than what it was. And so eventually, um, October 2022, I received a typewriter as a gift because I had begun talking to people about how I wanted to write poetry and write poetry for people in public places with a typewriter. And I was literally given that. I had no more excuses. And so I set off October 2022 and I began doing that. And so far, the result of that is 3 books, which I'm going to share with you some of the poems today. And now I'm calling this a rainbow poetry celebration. And I'll share a little bit more about that as time goes. But really, it's inspired from I always love rainbows. I started off thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I wrote a collection of poetry for just people in the community? One collection, 100 poems. Oof, that feels like a lot. Then I would do another collection for friends and family because they would humor me. It's 100, but like, probably doable. I'm sure I could find people that I could sucker into letting me write them a poem. And then the third one, because my bearded Englishman husband is from England, we visited. And so I thought, oh, I could probably scrape together 100 something or other. I don't know. Maybe make that happen. Well, as I was in the public, as I was talking to friends and family, as I was with my poetry, with my typewriter, with people, I began to meet more and more people who let me write them poems. And I realized this is not a three-book thing. This is a lot bigger than I realized. And I was talking to my friend who happens to be here, Lauren Deborah, and they said, what if you did a collection at the end that was like your favorite poems and it was like a pot of gold? And what if you did a rainbow? Because as we were talking, we were thinking, wouldn't it be cool to see 10 books on the shelf, a rainbow of poetry? And so it kind of spiraled out of control in the most beautiful way. And here we are. I have the red, orange, and yellow collections out. And this is a celebration for connecting with people. I called it Poems for My People, Community Volume 1, 2, and 3. And that's what I'm going to be reading from today. So this first collection, the red one, the red book, I now kind of call them the colors that they are. So the red book, it started as, a shaky effort trying to figure out how do I actually present poems for people? What do I write in like the introduction? How do I format a book of poetry? Huge learning curve. I chose to be an independent publisher, and that came with it a lot of things to learn. And here we are. So on June 30th, 2022, what was it? June 30th, 2023, on the anniversary of my first ever book that I published, came this one. And one of the poems in it is about my favorite time of year. This is the poem called In the Autumn. Cerulean peaks, leafy skies sparkle, deep breaths of warmth and delight, crisp mornings yawning, frosts transform hillsides blazing, red maple scattering. Shorter days, longer nights, steady, steady, finish the harvest before magic. The first snow flies. Viridian peaks, yellow-orange globes dotting fields, deep breaths of gratitude, abundance, settling deep, each falling leaf flowing above, crunching below, bittersweet, once overflowing, now barren, once excitedly growing, now stagnant, and yet a whisper promises more. And so we will wait in hope for more. That was In the Autumn. And it was a poem for a person who loves the season, but also is feeling this kind of longing for being able to reap all of the hard work that they have done. But then that fear of the wasteland in a way, of the running out of time that comes with winter. And they wanted to experience all of the beauty that they've worked for. And so that was such a privilege to get to write that for them. This next poem is called Free Now. I'm going to tell you what it's about before I read it to you. So one of the places that I love being is in a local food pantry with people for whatever reason, find them in the circumstance that they need help with groceries, whether it's a temporary or a long-term situation. They just need some help. So I get the privilege of sitting in the corner with my typewriter amidst all the hubbub of people waiting for their turn to go shopping. And I have a sign that says, "Want a poem? Pick a topic. I'll write while you wait." And sometimes I have to say, "Hey, anybody want a poem? I'm just over here whenever you're ready." And other times they line up and tell me these things that they need to be articulated by a poet. And they're so glad that I came because they have these things that they need to say. Some of these people are in very normal circumstances and they just find themselves in between jobs. Normal for me, that is. And other people are finding themselves in really desperate circumstances from addiction or some sort of loss that is deeper than just in between jobs. And this particular person that this poem is for is not the only one who's asked me to write a poem like this about the pain of addiction and the gratitude of coming out of it, the kind of uncertainty of the in-between times between addiction and the new freedom. And so that is what this person asked. Could I write them a poem about being free from addiction? I asked them a few more questions, but this is what I came up with. So this is Free Now. When deep pulls of longing fill my senses intensely, mysteries of pain from the past, haunting, wishing to leave, to forget myself, and now I am free. I've seen something better. I'm holding something stronger. The longings remain, yet I'm meeting them different. With hope-filled truth, with promises of life, with joy incomparable, with love undeniable. When darkness haunts, clouding my senses, I walk a new path. I choose the new way. I am free now. Now I am me. That is Free Now. Something that I find really important is when I write this work, I want it to be shared with other people whilst preserving the sacred connection that the person who requested the poem and I have had. So I do always have an acknowledgement section in the beginning of the books with people's alphabetically listed names, because without those people, these poems wouldn't exist. But the moment that we shared in the request making, I want to preserve that and hold that as very precious and a privilege. So I never put someone's name with the poem that it's about. And this first collection of 100 poems, I thought that it would be kind of identifiable, that it would be so specific that you would read it and you would know, oh, that's so and so. But but that's not the case. As it turns out, I recognize that the specificity with which I write, how I create a personal poem for this human, means that it actually resonates with even more people, which feels so contradictory. But it's such a privilege to realize that I can hold space for this one person, and then in being brave to make this book, it's actually creating space and safety for other people to feel peace, to feel known and seen. So I'm in writing community. I love writers. Some of you are here today. Um, and the question as writers that we often ask ourselves and that others are asking, what does it mean to be a writer? I thought the requester of this poem, maybe they would be really identifying themselves by asking this. As it happens, it's a college student, a young 20-something. And this is not the only young 20-something that I've talked to about very similar philosophical things. And so they said simply, write a poem about what it means to be a writer. And normally I pry to get some really specific details from them, but this student was fairly adamant. And they said, I want to bring it to my class tomorrow at college and read it to them. So I was like, okay, so from what I gathered from talking to this student and what I have gathered from talking to lots of other people up to this point about what it means to be a writer, this is what I wrote for the student. What does it mean to be a writer? Words on a page for days of mornings to wake, ideas progressing to form for readers, children today laughing tomorrow's leaders. What does it mean to be a writer? To carry emotions, to feel lighter, to write poems, forgetting to eat, never sleeping but dreaming. What does it mean to be a writer? Piles of books, your name on the spine, how you spend your days, your free time, thinking in rhyme, buying novels, saving dimes, escaping to faraway lands not yet written, creating lovers with whom to be smitten. What does it mean to be a writer? Bestseller status, podcast galore, interviews, accolades, awards to be won for stories unfolding, plot twists, and character magic to thrill and enthrall the agent just landed. To skip as a child, to travel for miles, to learn, entertain, to teach knowledge to gain. What does it mean to be a writer? To surprise and delight a crowd of page turners, keep books a comin', relationships storming, stay captivating. Perhaps that's it for you. But for me, I think, I dream, I breathe, I bleed, I sing in words. Show up on the page, digital or paper, observe and collect wherever you wander. Write your words and write. Write your words and declare it. I am a writer. So that student was happy to bring that to their classroom. I would have loved to go and read it to them, but that was fun. And I've realized this in so many ways is an anthem for me. And I feel revved up to keep the words coming, reading that to myself. So thank you. And just see a comment in the chat, the power of your words, taking one person's experience and bringing so many together. So gorgeous. Thank you. Thanks for being here. So this is Poems for My People, Community Volume 1, aka the Red Book. That I thought, I don't know if this is gonna work, but boy, has it worked. So that was June 30th, 2023. Then on February 16th, 2024, which I happen to choose that date because it is my mom's birthday. And so 1 year ago, today, on my mom's birthday, hi, Mom, happy birthday. This book, Poems for My People, Community Volume 2, aka the Orange Book of the Rainbow, came into the world. And so this collection of poetry was written mostly in live settings for individual people at their request. The settings include pubs and local food shelves and garden parties and just being in people's presence when they request a poem and I'm there with my typewriter and then I write it. And it's kind of random, some of the places that I've written, but the experience is just as profound every time. And so this orange book is my second collection. And on the back, I wrote the dust jacket because I figured if you have to, if you have to, which I'm choosing to have to, make a whole rainbow with cloud and then later a pot of gold of my favorite 100 of the 1,000 Roy G. Biv plus white, gray, black cloud. I have to design hardcover and a dust jacket and make it like really fancy. And so on the back, I say, hearts shared, stories told, hesitant desires declared. Each of these 100 poems was written for someone specific. In these pages, you'll find moments of grief and pain, glimpses of joy shared, whispers of hope for the future, powerful declarations to persevere, and even giggles of nonsense and silliness that offer the full spectrum of human emotion. So, I also want to just celebrate this. I forgot to change this. The first one, but woohoo, the red book. And now we are on to the orange book. Okay, there we go. So I carried on with this thing of writing poems for people and just being in awe at the privilege of holding space, of inviting people into this place and watching that the words came and that people were like so excited. And I began saying that it was a good day when I made someone cry. And I grew accustomed to getting lots of hugs and knew that I'd done it. And this is just the more that I created, the more I realized this is something important that I'm doing. And so I am going to keep doing it. And so this poem was written, this next one in the Orange Book was written for an expectant mom. Not not the first, not the last mom that I've written a poem for, not the first, not the last mom who was pregnant or had young children. But this is for a young woman who is anticipating a new baby. And she had happened to be at a workshop creating a wreath of flowers that she was going to put above the crib. And so she asked if I would write a poem that she could also put above the crib, which, I mean, how cool. I haven't even written a poem and she's already like, this is going in my baby's room. Like, wow, that is a privilege. And so I asked lots of questions, what she was anticipating, excited about, hoping for her child. And this poem is what I came up with. This is To My Sweet Wildflower. These flowers I've woven with you in mind. My heart sings with longing to meet you face to face, to hold your sweetness in my arms, to dream together as you become. These flowers I've woven for you in beauty, capturing life, preserving time to cheer for your wins as you struggle along, to cuddle you on sad days as you learn resilience, to celebrate you just because you are a created joy always. These flowers I've woven forever to remind us you are loved, you are blossoming, you are a gift, you are mine, and I am yours. That was To My Sweet Wildflower. And then, who doesn't love nature, right? We've shared about the mist, we've shared about the snow, we've shared about the birds, moonlight, night sky, all of the universe and its sparkle and mystery. This person asked if I could write a poem about moonlight. So this is on moonlight. At midnight, the lake dresses in impressive velvet with diamond pieces, a work of art. At dusk, rising in the sky, polished brightly milky white with cratered shadows exposed, hanging in fading blues, a signal of rest. At dawn, resting on the horizon, laying her head down to dream, silvery flashes like winking lashes, a welcome sunrise each day. That was on Moonlight. We can find peace in nature. We can find peace in expressing our emotions. We can find peace in simply being together. This next poem I'll write that I've written, I kind of was like, okay, I'll write it. I don't think this is going to go so well. They told me a whole bunch of things basically that they were complaining about. So I'm fiercely taking notes. Like, I don't know. And they just said, can you write me a poem about disorder? And then they just carried on telling me all of these things that are going wrong in their lives. I'm like, okay, thanks so much. I've got what I need. I'll let you know when it's ready. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But I came up with this, and I think it's really fun. So I want to share it with you. This is a poem about disorder. 25 jigsaw puzzles spilled on the dirty kitchen floor. Half a dozen eggs in a carton, each one already cracked. 19 clocks without any hands chiming alarms off the hour. 99 mismatched gloves, 77 questions unanswered, one stray dog barking, chasing squirrels through the halls. Bells hissing, old men hollering, whistles gonging, spoons clanking on pots out of time. 7 hours filling schedules in rhythm, out of rhyme. And as I read that to the requester, they were so excited. And that is just fun. And that has been one of the most biggest delights when I just just do my best. I take what I have and I offer, just like you today. Here is a moment of peace with poetry. Here is something that I've made, and then I let the poem live its life on its own and just be what it's going to be. And it is really fun as a writer to get that instant feedback. That is very unique because most of us writers write in solitude at our desks, wondering if anyone will will read it or like it or anything it. And it is a very humbling privilege to get to write something for someone and have that immediate feedback. And then to put it in a book, in a collection, a rainbow collection, and then have people give me feedback on them reading it later. I've had a few people say that they have enjoyed reading certain poems at a hard time in their life. There's a number of people who have had me write poems about sisters or sisterhood, their special sibling relationships. And one of these poems, someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, this this poem on sisters, well, it said everything that I wanted to say to my sister for the maid of honor speech at her wedding. And so I gave you credit and everything, but I read your poem as my speech." And I thought, hey, that's cool, because this was not a poem for them. It was a poem for someone completely different. And how cool to be peaceful and choose the courage to just show up on the page. And so, so I continue to do that. And as a writer who writes my own things and publishes my own things, I'm in charge. And so then I get to make different decisions about how I would bring things into existence. And so the red book and the orange book have been 100 poems written for an individual person at their request, mostly in a live setting. I say mostly because sometimes people weren't able to stick around and I took their phone number and then passed it on or mailed it or left it at the coffee shop or whatever. They picked it up later. But the yellow book, this one, let me change the background here. The yellow book was a special book because it was written in only one setting, Yellow Bike Coffee in Duluth, Minnesota. Shannon Cornelius has been an amazing support. When I first reached out to her in October 2022 and I said, "Hey, there's this thing that I want to do, this poetry busking with my typewriter." And she was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Come on, anytime. Come in. This is great." I was like, "You don't need me to explain." She's like, "No, this is awesome." And so I thought, because I was writing this during into 2024 when Max and I realized that we were moving back to England away from Duluth for this next season, I had a little panic that I might not be able to get 100 poems for this. And so I thought, well, hey, I'm just going to change it up a little bit just in case. I'm going to include some different stuff. Not just poems written for people, but I'm going to be brave and write some of my own poems that are about experiencing this place, this sense of place, very specific writing in just this one coffee shop with just this kind of people. I don't know if they are a kind of people, but the kind of people who come to Yellow Bite Coffee and want a poem from me. And and then I later decided as I was working through it, so I've got all of these poems about the atmosphere. Something that I don't share with people are what I call my prayer poems, and they are poems that I write straight onto the typewriter. And I just offer them to God and just say, "Hey, can you be here in this space? Because you've called me to be a writer, I think. And so today I feel like I can't do it, or I just hope that I can do it." Do it again. I've done it 200 times, but maybe the next one isn't going to work. Any other writers out there feel that? I know that you do because I've talked to you. But this one then felt like, oh gosh, it's very unique. I'll maybe include some of the conversation ideas that I've had with people and so I've got poems for individuals, I've got poems written in the setting, the atmosphere poems, and then I've got these prayer poems, which feels very vulnerable because they are unedited. This is, someone recently asked me, what are poems that are your emotions in your heart? And I was like, these prayer poems, they are raw. They are very real. That's my heart. And it feels vulnerable to even admit that, even though I published the book, but even admit it out loud. But I'm excited if poems that I've written for individuals can connect with people as part of their morning routine, or that they read at someone's um, wedding, then what comes from deep within my heart, I'm sure that that must resonate with others. And if it does, awesome. And if it doesn't, that's okay, because I think it helps my courage as a writer to just keep creating. So this yellow book is different. It ended up, I was panicking that it wouldn't have enough poems in it, but with the poems for the individuals and the atmosphere poems and the prayer poems, there are 109. So I went over my 100, and that's fun. So I'll start with the normal poem that we're familiar with, the one written for the individual. This was for someone who loves hosting dinner parties, and the way she and her husband described the way that they host people um, was really beautiful. So this is To Hold and Behold. To hold a smile in this jug, pouring water gently into glasses, refreshing guests in the cool evening. Behold, friendship and laughter. To hold a memory in this bowl, warming chicken soup in the winter, nourishing sons who've worked long days. Behold, family and gratitude. To hold a prayer in this baking dish, bubbling cheese delicious and oozing, filling daughters who've cried at night. Behold, childhood and hope. To hold a joke upon this plate, giggling salads of leafy luxuriousness, impressing neighbors newly moved in. Behold, loyalty and kindness in multitudes. To hold a kiss in this mug, whispering hot chocolates, teas, and coffees, cradling sweet faces, safely whole. Behold togethers, now, and stories forever after. That was To Hold and Behold. And then, as it is my mom's birthday, February 16th, I thought this next poem, A Birthday Moment of Pause, that I wrote for someone whose birthday it was, would be a fun one to read today. Roots of wise cedars do not one day decide to creep up and trip passers-by. But it takes time to build a network of thirsty sap holders drinking streams, groundwater basking in sunshine with leaves stretching out to breathe in light. A trunk of rings almost unending of stories told of wintry ice chimes heavy on brittle bare arms to dream dormant in wait for spring rain's gentle mists to melt, to reach rough bark rising strong for thunderstorms, showers, breaking silence without any warning. Carriers of messages, nutritious informants, mighty networks of tiny tendrils, secrets shared underground, connected communion, outdoor neighbors, windy waves tousled to greet passers-by who wander with ease. To watch in wonder as a flower grows, slow living as moss tickles the trunk from a foggy morning rain clearing, revealing bluest high, but one, just one wispy cloud sneaks on by. That was a birthday moment of pause. And I love that because it's in nature where we find so much peace, where we can pause, where we can breathe deeply and notice the beauty that's an arrow of hope that points to peace. And so I will read two more poems here, one very short and one longer to finish my reading for today. This is Lion Watering Hole. Her roar echoes through dry air, sipping water. Then checks her red lipstick. A little bit shorter, a little different from the others I've read. And this is a glimpse into my haiku exploration and my working with children. Give me your favorite animal and a weather word. You illustrate it, and I'm going to write it. And so this has been such fun to do this in classrooms. And it happened that a whole family, four kids and their two parents came in, and I got to write 6 haiku poems that they illustrated, and I got to include them in this, and it just was a really sweet moment. And the person who came in actually had a picture of a typewriter on their shirt. So I was like, "Hey, nice shirt." And then that opened up that I got to write 6 poems for these people. So that was delightful. Okay. So this last poem, if you do have questions, I will address them in a moment after this poem. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining. If you do need to step out for now, um, thank you for being here. But if you're able to stick around for just a few more minutes, I'd love to have you as we close out this piece. So, this poem is titled For the Day Upon Which It Was Written. 12th of May, 2023. Lord, I am here, faithful at my typewriter, the gift you've given to me. I know I have more to learn, more to live and share and speak, and of course, to write. And I am steady here, though feeling vulnerably cautious as I type my prayers to you. You are who has given me this skill and gift in skill and passion, in time and support and inspiration. I hope that the words that flow from my brain to fingers to keys to page would bring joy and hope and sensations of gifts to be creative and hold these gifts. So here I am with wearying hopes and determined faith to persevere. I am here with my fingers to declare rejuvenation and clarity and creativity from my heart and soul and mind to give. So here I am. Here I am, willing to create. I hope for breakthrough in poetry to change my life and theirs and yours, dear reader who longs to be inspired too. Perhaps my audacity and faith to share, perhaps my resilience to write imperfect again, perhaps my prolific hundreds in collections will serve as inspiration, will dispel your hesitation, will counter the lying discord you've held onto for all of this time. So I charge you, and you charge me, be free to create with your words. Be free indeed. So that was my yellow book, and I'm just so grateful that you have been here in this space with me. Um, Thank you. I will look for your questions in the chat. Very proud of my backgrounds. Lauren, Deborah, this has been the best start to your day. Oh, thanks. Question. Where has your favorite place to set up your typewriter and write poems for people? And if you could set up anywhere in the world, where would that be? Ooh, good question. I I think one of my favorite places has been in our friend's cidery. It's kind of like a pub. And it was just so nice because they were happy to have me there. They understood and loved that it added to the space. And so I never felt like I was in the way. There are some places where I've been that they kind of don't know quite what it's going to be like. And so then if there isn't a lot of space or if the owners of the place aren't really sure, it can feel like I'm kind of being rushed a little bit or maybe not sending people and they think it's weird. But this cidery with that our friends owned has always been a really amazing place to be. It's kind of in the woods, so that was great. Lots of chunky wooden tables and just a place where people came to be and just meet with each other. So I really loved that. Um, I guess the peace of that place. And if I could set up anywhere in the world, where would that be? So as a kid, I read I think I must have been like a preteen or young teenager. I read about someone who set up with a typewriter in a park and they wrote outside. And that was a dream that I had that I didn't feel like I was allowed to. And so I would love to be in a park with my typewriter. So living in England, the weather is not super cooperative with that. So um, my fingers get really cold even on warm days. So I need to be somewhere that it's warm, not rainy, not windy. Um, but not too hot because sometimes I get nervous being around people and then I get sweaty extra. So maybe a cool Australian day. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe by the beach if it's not too windy. That sounds fun. Sunshine and no rain and not too windy. That would be fun. Cool. If there are any other questions, do put them in the chat. Otherwise, I wanted to share one last thing as I'm changing my background because I prepared for all of this. What's next, Molly? I'm going to keep typing on my typewriter. I'm going to keep writing poems for people. I'm going to keep creating and sharing words because I've realized now hundreds of poems for individual people into this process that my friend Lauren Deborah and I were on to something as we realized that, yeah, I could totally make a rainbow of poetry books. I was nervous at first, and now I'm like, yep, no, I'm doing it because guess what? The green one is written. Guess what? The blue one is written. And the others are well on their way. It has been very fascinating to watch how this has bloomed and flourished, and I'm just so excited to keep writing. So I shared a little bit about the yellow one, that it was written in just one setting. Well, the green book, the fourth collection, was written in all of the other places when I wasn't just in Yellow Bite Coffee Shop. So it was at garden parties. It was when I traveled to friends' houses and they hosted in different states. And it was in the other coffee shops. It was in the cidery. It was in the pantries. It was in all of these other places. And as over this last year, as Max and I have moved from Duluth to the UK again, I've done this move before, but it feels very different this time. This sense of place feels very pertinent. It's a weird thing, exploring what it means to have more than one place in the world geographically that I call home. And I know some of you who are here with me live do understand that odd sensation where you're thinking, ooh, I'm gonna go to this coffee shop and invite this friend. And then I realize, ooh, either that coffee shop is in Duluth, so I can't actually just pop over there because I'm in England, or or oh, that friend is in Minnesota and they can't come with me to walk down the road to this cool place. And so in my brain, it kind of has this trick that it plays on me. So as I explored sharing some little essays, which I didn't share a ton about this, but in the yellow book, I made those decisions to do whatever I wanted with this collection. And I thought it would be cool to share some of the like conversations I had with people, some of the kind of common questions that people ask. Um, and that was neat to be able to write these little coffee chats that I've had with people. And so I thought for this green one, because it was written in all of the other places than Yellow by Coffee, wouldn't it be cool to maybe explore this weird sensation that's rather disorientating to the sense of place? And so um, that's the all of the 100 poems for the Green Book are written, but I'm finalizing these essays that I'm including about sense of place. And so that is what's coming. And so I'm just keeping on with the rainbow. That's what I'm doing. I'm writing poems, I'm sharing peace, and keeping remembering that I need to just keep doing it. And so I am so grateful. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. And it's been really fun to get to read you some poems and see your names and faces with me today, and to celebrate poetry with my biggest fan, Maggie, my mom, whose birthday it is today. So again, happy birthday, Mom. And everybody, thank you so much. And thanks to my dear sweet Max, my bearded furniture making Englishman husband, who has sat with me and listened to lots of words beyond this. And I'm sure I'll have lots more words after we come off of this inspiration. So bless you guys. Let's just take a deep breath together. Thank you. Thank you. May you go in peace.